Today we are going to look at our data again, and we're going to work out how many violations we have, which ones are the most prevalent, because now we're getting into telling stories with data. We want to figure out the average number. We want to find out the median, which shows us literally the halfway point, and we want to figure out the standard deviation, and that way we can tell which facility may have more problems than another. All right, are you ready? Let's go to work. So the only two things you're going to need on your screen is going to be whatever version of Notepad you're using. So on a Mac, you'll be using Text Wrangler or Bare Bones Edit, and on the PC, you'll be using that Notepad++. Okay? So first off, have a nice, clear, empty notepad to copy the data that you'll be getting from our good old friend column D. So in column D, or whichever is your violations column, it'll be on the email, we select all the text. So you do that by tapping up here, right? You tap at G, F, E, so you tap at D, it will select all the column. Command C or Control C, depending if you're on a PC or a Mac, to copy it. Go back into your editor and you're going to paste it. Like mine, it shoots right down to the bottom, so just pull that up to the top. Now, mine is showing in large font here today, so I'm going to take that down by showing the fonts and just bringing that size back down to 12. All right, so what we need to do here is search and replace, because we want to literally insert some kind of separator that will do this. Turn every line after the name of the violation. That's what we want to do. We need to be able to get the names of the violations, like item 5A, item 12A, on one row. So you see down here in row 18, for instance, we have two. We have item 15B and we have item 15A. We need them to be each on their own row. All right, so to do that, we do a search and replace. So you go up to search and you go to find. And this is the syntax that we're looking for. We're looking for instances of where we see, a semicolon, a space, and an I. See, like up here, a semicolon, a space, and a capital I. And what we want to tell the computer is every time you come across one of these, I want you to put a new line in. So you do that by putting in a piece of computer language, which is / small n for new line. And we also want to put in the uppercase I. So the reason that we're always saying only look for semicolon space I is we only want to catch those items. So because we're looking for I, we need to make sure we put it back in. So if you're using a Mac, you select grep. If you're using the PC, you use extender. The extender version, you'll see beside extender there are brackets and it shows you the computer language. So it's \n or for new line, etc. Hit that and replace all. Okay? It has gone off and changed everything as we wanted it to. And copy and paste that if you've done your search and replace properly. If you haven't and it doesn't look like this, stop this video and go back. Copy and paste that into Excel. Give it its own sheet. That's fine. And what Excel has done is it has picked up the content and it has put all of these items. So where you had those items going into one row, do you remember there was one where we had like 28 items in one row? It's broken them all out now and it's given them all their own row. If we count the number of items here now, we're up to 830. Back here, we only had 298. So now we can count which violations are the most prevalent. Now we have a couple more things to do here. We need to take out all of the no violations. So you do that, take out no violations, and then copy column A into its own sheet. Rename that sheet just so you get used to doing it, and call this filtered violations. Okay, we're nearly there. Only one more thing that we have to do now is split this column to text, because we want to make sure that items 5A are all counted individually. We don't want item 5A floors counted, 15A floors counted with another type of 15A, although there don't seem to be any there. However, so now we split the text to the columns. So again, select all of column A, go up to data, text to columns, and we're going to break it on the dash, right? And then you see in the preview here, it's showing you that all of these items will be counted separately. Hit next and then finish. And now we have all of the items. They all have their own row, which is where they need to be. One more thing to do before we get finished is we want to trim all of that extra white space, because otherwise it's going to see item 5A. And see here, we have space there. It won't recognize that item 16 is item 16. It will think it is space item 16. So we use that trim white space function that we did the other day. So if you've forgotten about how to use trim, you'll see now why it comes in super handy. If we go down these rows here, we can see that item 10B is not really item 10B, it's space item 10B. And Excel will treat that as a different record than the other ones. So what we need to do is tell it to trim all white space from that column. So to do that, we need to insert a column immediately to the right of the text that we want to change. The reason for that is because when Excel does a function, it looks to the left. Okay, so call this column new violations so you can see the difference. And then into the cell, we're going to type in the first piece of text that we want to change. So you type in an equal sign to let Excel know that a formula is coming. And then you type in trim. And it gives you the formula there. It's saying trim, where's the text? Well, the text in this instance is in here. It's in A2. End bracket, it's over, right? So it has automatically trimmed everything that was in row 2. You just drag that down to the bottom. There are faster ways of doing this, but we're not doing that at this point because I want you to be able to do this clearly. Now that you have trimmed all of the white space out, see the way it fills it in? Excel now knows that there are multiple versions of uniques here. So now what we're going to do is insert a pivot table on the new data, on the new B. So get your pivot table, depending on whether you're using a PC or a Mac. Over we go here. And literally, we are just counting our violations. All right. And we can see all the violations that we have. So we want to see, well, which ones happen most frequently? So it's descending, and then it's by count. Right, and now we can see that 15A, whatever 15A is, this is where your journalism comes in, is the most frequently cited violation in food safety. So let's say your story here now is you're doing Hempstead, and you can say top 10 most prevalent food citations are these 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc. Okay? So that ends how we look up the most prevalent violations. You do a search and replace using a basic notepad, and you replace something that happens on every line with enter new line, trim the white space from the resulting text, and then pivot it, and then you can count what the items are. And this is where you get into the storytelling. Insert average and mean now. Looked at the most prevalent violations. The last thing we want to do is find out which numbers are insert white space. All right, so now that we have figured out what the most prevalent violations are, we now want to work out the average and the standard deviation just to see, do certain facilities or certain places have more than the average? So the way we do that is we take the column that we're looking at. So the column that we're looking at is, on mine it's column G, it's your total of non-critical violations. Click on column G and down here, Excel will give you the average. See, the average is 3.4. It'll give you the count, 296, and it will give you the sum. So the total number of violations is 1,008 for this data set, spread over 296 rows with the average of 3.4. So, as we said earlier, the reason we want to find the standard deviation is we want to see what numbers are bigger or smaller than the average. And we do that by measuring the numbers that are bigger by a standard deviation or smaller by a standard deviation. This makes more sense when you see it in action. So copy that column, give it its own sheet over here. And what we're going to do is just tell Excel to go off and do some sums, right? So first thing I said to find out was the average, standard deviation, and the median. Now the median is useful because it gives you an idea of the halfway point, literally. So here we're going to say to Excel, I want to do this formula. Hit the equal sign. Depending on what you're using, your version of Excel, the formula might be up here on the left. It may be on the right. Don't worry about it. Work with your computer till you find out where it is. Equal, we want to find the average, right? We want to find the average of column A. So if we were writing this as a formula, we would say, I want you to find equals the average of column A. So we show it's column A by bracketing it off. So using Excel, I can just say done, right? And it tells me the average is 3.4. Well, now I want to find the standard deviation. So it can either be up here or over here. But again, into the cell that you want the answer to come into, equal sign to tell Excel that you're bringing in a formula, equal standard deviation, and then tell it the range you want it to measure, right? Once you've done that, hit return, and you're good to go. Now we've got a problem here. Can you see this? It's just saying equals AA. So I did something wrong, right? So I have to go back and do it again. So standard deviation, insert the function. I want it to be A through A. Hit done. It's going to get multiple errors here because you can see up here, now I've managed to bring it in twice. Again, don't worry about it. It's just code. Backspace over the bit you don't want. Keep what you do want, right? Now we're seeing that the standard deviation is 3.68. Long numbers, I'll show you how we shorten them. All you have to do there is decrease the amount of the decimal point there. All right, so we're bringing that down, 3.4, 3.7. Two things to know here. The fact that the standard deviation is so close to the average means that most of the numbers here fall within range of the average. So any numbers above these two numbers are significant outliers. So 3.4 and 3.7 equals 7.1. So anything with more than a 7, you should go back and look at that facility because that facility is running way above average. Now the other number that you need is the median. So I'm hoping you're getting used to it at this point. You just hit equal up here at the formula. You can come over here to find median, or you can just start typing it in, see, and it will bring it in. And we want to find the median of that column, right? Bracket it out. And it's telling us that the median number of violations per facility is 2. So again, that's a good indicator that anything above more than one standard deviation away from the average is a real outlier. So any of these numbers back here, so we go back into our data, and now you can filter by descending, right? And you now know that anything with a 7 or above is seriously over average number of violations. So they might be the ones that you'd want to concentrate on. But for the moment, that's it. So what we've done this evening is look at working out most frequent violations, the average, the standard deviation, and the median. So what I want you to do is, using the Excel spreadsheet I supplied, I want you to go and work out the top 10 most frequent violations, the average, the standard deviation and the median. And the reason we're all working off this one spreadsheet is to make sure that everybody can help everybody else, because all of your answers will be the same. Fingers crossed. See you all on Monday. This is your homework plus the reading. This is the makeup rubbish.